everybody. Welcome. Look who's here. Dave Johnson's here. What do you think of that intro, guys? McKenna did that for us. She's
so good.
She was so excited. So she put that together in about all of, 2 minutes. It's amazing. Teenage.
Yes.
Yeah.
To be young.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So, we've got some folks. Hello, Tony Stokes. We do see you.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Bonnie.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Maya. Hello, Jennifer. Yeah. And then when you see the chain link, David, that's when the folks are coming in from your channel. So you see a chain link on where the folks are. That's what that means. So like Earth Mama, Trixie.
Hello. Oh my gosh, our little trick worked.
So we're broadcasting from both. It's pretty cool. So, we're so glad you're here. David and I were excited about this. We love talking about spirit stuff. So thank you so much for putting your questions last time in the comments, and then I was able to copy them and put them in banners. So we do have some of your questions. If you have questions this time, it's really helpful for me. Dave will probably catch them, but if you can put your questions in capital letters, then I know that that's a question and not a comment. It really helps our eyes as we get going. The chat can get going pretty quickly, so that would be great. All right, well, how have you been this week, Mr. Dave?
Great. I mean, these times are so weird right now. It's kind of like a massive roller coaster of up and downs. If you focus on politics, it is just absolutely a roller coaster, of course, because it's good and bad. Every 5 minutes, this political situation seems to radically change. Of course, there's war and sadness throughout the planet. It's just want to empathize with everybody out there. It's really hard. It's really hard to be human right now, and I'm sure it's hard at other times. But imagine just go forward with a great deal of sympathy for yourself, because there are two vibrations going on. There's like a vibration of get angry and depressed and give up. And then there's a vibration of this exuberancy of like, oh, wow, so many more people are starting to channel, and so many more people are creating communities. And, there's just so much, just a huge difference in the energies right now that, everybody's being affected by it, and, me and my clients. So trust me, I have weeks where I'm struggling just to not be angry and depressed. I have to make myself meditate every morning. I'm now doing it 5 days a week, or 7 days a week instead of 5. So it's not like, hey, I meditated, everything's good. All right. I would say that because, a lot of people, when they see us, they think that somehow we have evolved to this point where we no longer have any problems. And as Jen, I'm sure you can attest, we have problems too. It's just we have a particular role, and that's how it's really working right now. It's good and bad, and of course the seasons are changing here. So it went from incredibly hot to kind of cold in like an hour.
Yeah.
Hot day, but that's going to end soon.
Yeah.
And, so obviously that's changing too, but
you live fairly close to water, right?
I live literally across the street. Then there's a set of houses, then there's the water. I just moved here a few months ago, and it's really good for the soul. In the city, this kind of downtown was kind of killing me. Just the noise, imagine like you're trying to do these videos, there's just always a racket. It's one thing about Australia, they're building everywhere, so there's always noise.
Right. Yeah. Well, you had a really nice space outside at your other house that you lived in.
I did. It was pretty small though.
Was it?
Yeah, and believe me, I had to time that perfectly. I had to set an alarm and go out, and I could only do it when the neighbors weren't building.
Oh, okay.
They're building like crazy right now. They're building a gigantic box in what was in their backyard, and it's literally abuts my backyard. So
Crazy,
thank you,
crazy.
thank you, thank you. Trust me, I manifested this place. I shouldn't have been able to afford a place by the beach, but it happened. Thanks.
Lovely. Yeah, that's fantastic. Good, good. All right. Well, let's get going here with so we're taking spiritual questions, you guys.
Uh-huh.
And let's see. Um let's get warmed up before we do some channeling. Well, let's see. We'll channel the stone circles in Scotland.
Right.
Um and then let's see. How about okay, this is from Paisley. So Ayers Rock or Ayers.
Ayers Rock.
Ayers.
Mm.
Did it teach you how to recognize any energies or change your
Mm.
abilities or
Well, I would say more it was an experience of a different energy. So I, just like everybody else, didn't really notice. I was like, okay, plodding along, talking to these people, having a reasonably good time, staring at the stars. Um, I don't think I really even noticed the energy shift until I got back to that city apartment I was just talking about, and it was completely not that. That's
Mhm.
actually when the revelation came. So in retrospect, I know it's clearer now. Maybe it's just an American thing, but I knew right away when I got to certain places in California that the energy was different. So you go to
Mhm.
Mount Shasta, you're walking, you're like, whoa, you can just feel this. It's very specific. Yosemite, it's
Mhm.
very specific. And there's a place in California that I used to go camping called Point Reyes. And
Ooh.
Reyes is really magical. It's very close to the city. So that's why I could, hitchhike or take a bus there. And yeah, I noticed that right away. And I think this is true for a lot of us. Like these energies are going on, and
Mhm.
we're busy. We're doing this. We're doing that. You're driving a car. You don't necessarily have time to notice, and then something happens. It's like spirit just throws in something, and you notice. So maybe an example might be like when I went to Point Reyes. I
Yeah.
had no idea. But Point Reyes has these deer, and some people, they adopt a little baby cute deer in a snowy place. And then they get it to their house in California. They're like, "Oh, it's eating my backyard," and then they just release it into to the wilds of Point Reyes. So
Mhm.
that'd be normal deer. One day, first day I'm walking up the hill, and I look up, and there's a snow white deer, and I mean antlers full on, 20 feet away, looking at me, and I'm like, is this a ghost? There aren't supposed to be white deer in California. What am I? Am I?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm almost like, am I really seeing this, or is this a fantasy? Is imagination? And I
Uh-huh.
walk more, and there's a field of white deer, right?
Whoa.
All the males out in front, all the
Yeah.
women behind them, all the babies behind them, and there must have been 50 of them. And I was just not expecting it. So I think sometimes the universe just like sweeps in and they're like, hello, Dave, hello, magic place. And then I'm like, oh, because I get distracted by life. And I think that's kind of what happened at Ayers Rock. It's just like, I don't notice, I don't notice. It was the distinction between that and the city. That's what made me notice,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
It's very much an event. Mhm.
Mhm. So it has spiritual significance to the Aborigine.
Aboriginal people, yeah, it does. And it's a bit complicated because Aboriginal people don't really, for the most part, they don't trust or want to interact with, European descent people. I certainly don't blame them. So largely, it's a separate culture, and they're not going to give their secrets away, so they won't overtly tell you why or how it's magic, etc. There are certain rules you have to follow. People used to climb it, and now you're not allowed to do that because people are people have said, hey, this is wrong, let's stop doing that. You're not allowed to take pictures because Aboriginal people don't believe that you should take a picture of that. It's almost like capturing spirit and putting it in your pocket. So that is forbidden most of the places near Ayers Rock. So it almost exists just as a mystery. I can't tell you about it or explain it because there are no words to really explain it that are available to me. And I can tell you just that every person that I know who's been there has had this magical feeling. It's a difficult to sort of understand that because the cultures are very separate, and so it kind of just exists as a mystery. And in some ways, that's good because it's just a feeling.
Mhm.
Yeah, Ayers Rock is the mother. Yeah, it's kind of just a feeling. It's just anybody who's had a religious experience, they can't explain it.
Wow.
It's just a feeling, right? Or an experience. It changes your life, and you can't really tell people why it changes your life. It just does.
Fantastic.
Mhm.
Fantastic.
So maybe we're to answer Paisley. I'm better now. I wasn't particularly good before. It would just kind of happen in front of me. The universe has a tendency to whack me over the head. I'm not paying attention. And people think I'm exaggerating. I have walked down the street and had people punch me in the face.
Really?
Yeah. Well, part of it is San Francisco, during George Bush the first, just Central crack hit the city. But as I mentioned before, I asked people about that, and they're like, "Of course that happened to you, Dave."
Yeah.
I was once reading a book about a human shadow.
Yeah.
And instead of staying home and reading that book, I went out and I went to this bar, and there was a band playing. The lead singer, at some point, mysteriously leaped off the stage and belted me in the chops.
Really?
Yeah, and later on, my friends went and spoke to him and said, "Why'd you do that?" And he came and he apologized and said, "I have no recollection of doing that."
Oh my goodness. So
Yeah,
wow. You think that was spirit? Like, hold on. Bye, sweetie. Have fun.
Say bye to McKenna.
She's gonna go. It's fight night. Martial arts. Yeah. So.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, so that does happen. It happens a lot less now. But
where spirit will
on the bus and sees pickpockets.
Yeah.
It just constantly happens to me. It drives friends and family crazy because I'm always one like, "Sir, give her the wallet back." No, you got to give the wallet back. So I don't know what it is exactly, except that it's just like, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I suppose I have a certain kind of energy that just brings things up. And sometimes like what's going on is sort of manifest in front of me. I don't know why. I kind of just think it is my energy.
Awesome. Well, then maybe that's what works. That's what gets your attention.
Well, often I've just kind of come up with this idea that this whole political situation we're in, and I don't want to politics, is really a spiritual opportunity for us to go into radical compassion. Can we still say no to people who are, doing things wrong and giving up our democracy, and be very compassionate about it? Calmly say no. And I think that sometimes has happened. Like, okay, here's this totally irate person. How can I compassionately say, "Hey, don't punch me again"? The most compassionate thing I really told my friends, I was living in Hungary at the time.
Yeah.
It's really quite amusing because one of them got up from the table, walked across the town, and dragged that guy over and made him apologize.
Oh, goodness. Great.
And I wasn't angry at him so much. I was just like, why?
Oh, wow. Interesting. Oh, interesting.
I wonder if that's probably true for a lot of people out there. Like, why do these experiences happen to me? And I think it is useful to some degree to go into what am I supposed to learn here? It doesn't mean it's okay that we're going to punch me, but what am I going to learn here? How can I understand it? You might not know it in the moment or even for a year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very good. All right. So, Chris, she's asking us, do we get messages from nature?
Oh, heck yeah. And
Yes.
if you want to get messages, go to nature. Like
Mm-hmm.
that is number one. And you know why? Because there's nobody in between you and spirit. There's
Right.
nobody saying, "Oh, spirit's telling you this." Nobody in the middle. It's just you and
Mm-hmm.
spirit. And you know, when we say messages, it's actually coming through the heart. So it's not necessarily something that you can. You might not be able to write down what the message is. It's just like, oh, I have a feeling of compassion, or I often used to do this in San Francisco. I'd just go to the park and I'd lie there for just an hour, just in the most secluded place I could find. I would lie there for an hour and I would just rest. And I would just be like, oh God, all that stuff just needs to go into the earth. And I often tell people, go to nature and just like let everything like sink into there like a lightning bolt. Just go poof, and Mother Earth will transform it. And when
Mm-hmm.
you stand up, you're like, you see things in a different way. I'm swimming a lot. And I tell you, I'll be swimming and I'll just work out so many problems. I don't know why it doesn't happen when I'm cycling, but something about the water and the being in that space. By all means, go to nature. It is the best teacher because it's never going to be wagging its, you should do this. It's always going to be compassionate.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. When I was a kid, I grew up on Fox Island and we lived in the woods. And so I always played in the woods. And I would know what the trees were thinking or had to say, or I would see fairies. Yeah. Um, yeah, the animals. It was wonderful. When I was backpacking and met Bigfoot, when I go hiking now, and if I'm by myself, I feel the vibration behind me as if something is walking behind me. And
So,
Sasquatch is pretty mischievous, and they
so
act.
tell me, is that energy different now that you're in New Mexico?
Yes. Well, it's not the same. It's uh, it's more ancestral here. Like I definitely feel spirit, see spirit. It's
Mhm.
more uh what's the word? It feels like more has happened here with
Mm,
violence or struggle.
right.
But through that, I feel the peace. I feel the resolution. I feel what has been learned.
Mm,
Whereas in Washington State, it feels vibrantly new still and green and fertile, right? When you're out in the woods. It's a different tone. That's a really good question.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I asked about, Gaia, how do you feel about our polluting? What is it with us humans, right? How do you feel about us humans and what we do? And
Hmm.
yeah, I get messages.
Uh-huh.
Mostly it's a soul contractual relationship, you guys, with the planet and our consciousness. And understand that yes, it can be dismaying, global warming or how our earth is changing and we can't live in certain places or farm foods. And it seems really defeating when we see big oil, right? Big hydrocarbons being,
Right.
flung into the air. It can be very defeating, but understand the macro energy is it's supposed to be that way. And we are evolving and developing, and it's to challenge us. It's to challenge and help us move in our spiritual growth.
Uh-huh.
Understand that we are seated here.
Mhm.
Consciousness is seated here. So it is still being seeded to adapt to how we have changed and how we're evolving.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. If it were all Garden of Eden, we wouldn't really be learning anything. Right. You know, I think some of us after this lifetime will go to some really Garden of Eden place and just relax before the next lifetime. Right? Because we need some space. I think other planets don't have the same energy this one has. It's
Right.
so competitive. As some have said, we learn everything via emotions. I think this was from the Cosmic Collective, who I work with. Um, you know, what was said is just on your planet, there's these emotions, and everything you do is through emotions. And you know,
Mhm.
people will be saying, "Oh, you're so emotional." Well, it's all emotion, even if you're putting some logic in there, right? It's still emotional. That's what motivates people to do things for the most
Right.
part. Unless you're a
Yeah.
scientist, right?
Right. Yeah. Very good. Very true. So is it a frequency difference between New Mexico and Washington?
Mm,
Yes. Absolutely. The energy is so different here. There is so much more, it's just so much more active here. Kind of this, like what I'm talking about, the older ancestral, like the messages that come from the earth, our ancestors, what we are to learn. Whereas when up in Washington, out hiking and being out in the forest and or water skiing, be out, in the Puget Sound, or it's very beautiful there, but it's very young feeling and
mm,
fresh. It doesn't have the wisdom of, when I'm channeling or meditating. That's why I love it here. That's a really good question, Paisley, because it feels like an older vibration,
mm,
with more wisdom.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah,
Interesting. Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
Good question. Does it feel that way from going to Australia?
Yeah, and maybe that's something I'm just going to momentarily channel on, and
Oh,
just to
okay,
take a look at this energy, because again, it's like something I can't really explain. Okay, so
okay.
spirit, how can we explain the difference between Australia and the United States? I'll just tell you the image that I get. Here's the message that I first get is different portals. So I think that everything's a portal, but the portal of Australia is just different. The entering is different, and is there anything else we could say that's very specific about the difference? Hmm. Well, again, I'm reminded of difference. I began much of this work when I was in Hungary. I was in the Peace Corps, and I just randomly, very interestingly, hooked up with this shaman, and I was in this group. And I went to Hungary because I thought, oh, I'm gonna kind of discover my ancient European ancestors. There'll be this great connection. And when I got there, I'm like, I'm American. Like I don't think the same way as these people. It's not better, but I'm American. I'm independent. I don't like people telling me what to do. There are all of these things that I'm just like, if you're going to tell me what to do, I'll do the opposite. It's really American sort of attitude. And I was sitting in this circle, and what I saw was not a European. I saw sort of guide. It was a Native American woman just
Oh,
dancing around really powerfully in this circle. She looked very much like the first lady who did do just sort of intro shamanism to me. Her name is Kayala, and she's a Native Hawaiian woman.
ooh.
So it was kind of her, but it was kind of more Native American too. It's important to note that Hawaiians don't identify as Native Americans. They're sort of a very different culture. Obviously, they're far away. So our government has lumped them in together as one group of people, and that's kind of gross in a lot of ways. But there's just something about that land that we live on. And it's not just the politics, it's not just the culture, it's not the fact that there are all these people coming from different places. There's something about that earth that makes us specific people. And I'll notice it now because I'm not Australian. Well, I am Australian politically, legally, right? Because I came to Australia. I'm Australian and American. But sometimes the way that people would act, that doesn't really make sense to me. And sometimes it's about 10,000 times better, okay? Because I don't know my neighbor's politics. I've never seen people argue in the streets. No one, if they're driving, you're driving right. No one would ever do that, right? One time I was on my bike and the lights weren't working very well, and this car's kind of driving next to me, and the woman gets to me, she goes, "Look, sir, I'm sorry, but I really can't see you." And I was just like, I can't imagine an American doing that. Americans would be like, "Get off that bike, you get some freaking lights." She was really doing it just to say, "Look, I can't, for future reference, I be careful because no one can see you." And obviously, I'm like, "Oh, the lights worked until 5 minutes ago," and I told her that. She's like, "Oh," and she drove off. It's just a more let's get along culture, and usually that's better considering 22 million people as opposed to 360 million people. It's a lot easier to be compassionate. But it's important, I think, to know that the place that you live does affect your energy.
Yeah. How long have you lived in Australia now?
9 years. Yeah, I moved here 7 months before Trump became president. Ooh. So I just dodged that bullet. I gotta tell you, I'm still really American. I was really concerned, and I still am concerned about my home, my nation. It is. It didn't stop. I didn't stop being American when I moved here. I was in some places even more American. Even more.
Yeah. So are you considered a citizen?
Yeah, I got my citizenship.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And believe me, that's because my partner's a genius. They couldn't care less about me. They're like, "Oh yeah, we'll take him."
Oh, okay.
He's the statistical genius that's really transforming their culture in a magnificent way that I can't even explain to you because I'm not smart enough. But he's the reason why I got to be. So I got really lucky. Now I want to tell all y'all that I did manifest that. A couple of months before I met him, I really did manifest all of the changes of my life that happened. And it didn't happen instantly. It's still happening. It's still manifesting. Yeah, I am a citizen of both countries. America allows you to be citizens with one other country. I cannot be a citizen of another. India, where he's from, does not allow that.
Wow, interesting.
So he had to give up his citizenship to become an Australian.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it took him a year to really get with that.
Yeah. Wow. So you manifested your partner.
I would say, now, I mean, one thing that I just hate to tell people is, "Oh, you need some love, go manifest that, and it'll all happen." Because life isn't that easy. It is more complicated than that. I will also say that I, manifested the wrong partner before I manifested the right one. So this manifesting thing, it's not just like boom. As Lena would say, it's not just like tickety boo, you're off.
Tickety boo. I know. I love it when she says that.
It is, but I really did. I was in a very dark place. I was in a very unhappy place. I was in a, let's call it a Trump supporter place where nothing was working out for me and I was really broke. I wasn't going to be a Republican or anything, but I was in a very hard place. I remember one week I spent every night on the phone with the insurance company just trying to get a doctor's appointment. And they were overwhelmed and I would sit on hold for hours and then the phone would drop off and I'd have to do that again. So I was in a really heavy place before I said, "Okay, fine, just try it." And it worked. immediately. So, this manifestation thing is not necessarily 100% clear, but it is worthwhile trying. If you want to manifest things, give it a try, and then try it a different way, and try to do it scientifically without being attached to the outcome, right? And that's also like, hey, let's just observe what changes and see, right? It may not be that particular manifestation is really good for you right now, so it might not work out. It may be just timing, but I think all those things came together. Like the timing was perfect, and I think I might have just been doom scrolling for years, and then finally came across somebody positive, and I was like, oh, I feel better watching her, right? I think it was Hicks that I discovered. And once that happened, I'm like, wow, you really do have power to speak to the universe and get what you want.
That's fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. So there was one year. Sorry, I lost it. I was thinking about manifesting. It was about manifesting. I'm sorry. Oh, starred. Here we go. Are there crystal caves in Australia that are sacred to the Aboriginal people? Do you know this?
I don't know. And if they existed, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't tell me. Great movie. I think it's called The Next Wave, or is it The Last Wave? And it's a really good movie. It's one of the first kind of international Australian movies. And it is about a guy who he's a lawyer, and he's defending an Aboriginal person. But he gets close enough with those people that they show him some of the Aboriginal stuff. But he just gets a glimpse. And that's all he's allowed to have, is a glimpse. Because they really do need to protect their culture. I thought, oh yeah, let's get this group of people. We'll all go to Ayers Rock and we'll have this spiritual experience. And Lena's like, babe, no way are you doing that. I'm not gonna let you. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? She goes, that's their culture, Dave, and you can't subsidize it for your own purposes. You want to do that? Go back to California and manifest that. You don't want to just sort of suck up their energy per se.
Right.
If there's an Aboriginal person who would be willing to do that with you, and they're with the community, that would be appropriate.
Right. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've experienced this contradiction. In order for people to do that, they would have to fly on a plane to Ayers Rock. How much pollution is that creating? How much cost is that? How much are we making just a select group of people who could afford that? Which is what the magic of what we're doing right now is all about. It doesn't cost us anything. It's not harming the planet for the most part.
Right. Yeah. Beautiful. Good energy.
I hope they're crystal caves, and I hope I find them. Thus far, no. I think thus far the crystal cave is very interior. Experience.
Right. The frequency from the crystals below the surface of the place you're in. Yes, absolutely. The stones, you feel it in different areas. I mean, because here, all of New Mexico is calcite. This is volcanic rock, but it's calcite everywhere. And so calcite is a real emotional stone, and it really grounds your energy. I think that's why folks feel so good when they come to New Mexico, and how the sky has that beautiful color at night. It's the energy that's radiating. Well, and plus the light, the angle of the light gives it that beautiful golden color. But it's the calcite. Calcite is it's a wonderful leveling out, grounding stone. So it's pretty cool that, seriously, my driveway is just all rocks, and it's just all calcite.
Wow.
I love it. So yes, Paisley, good question. All right. Hello, Maggie Martinez. Is energy harder to access if you're in a city versus the suburbs or the country?
You want to answer or should I?
Not for me. I mean, I feel I'm aware of kinetic energy of like a city. I feel the peacefulness and the groundingness of being in the country. But through my meditative practice and my spiritual practice that I developed over time, I'm able to feel very grounded, very connected when I'm in a busy, chaotic, energetic place. So
Mhm.
is it harder to access? It just, for me, my experience, Maggie, is it's taken practice.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, it's just kind of repetition. Have you found that, Dave?
Yeah, it's sort of like if you go to nature, you don't need to turn anything on. It's already on. Now you could go deeper with it. So sometimes I go do shamanic ritual in nature, and
Yeah.
I beat my drum and speak to spirit and, and do these things. So I can go deeper in that way. But every morning you and I do the same thing. We meditate. We sit here before any client or any show. I would always meditate. Always try to do calming things before. So I don't want that energy to come out. So it's just more conscious. It's almost like there's so many energies out there. I've got to select one, right? And you can imagine there's noise going on outside, there's events, there's the garbage truck, all of that stuff is all affecting you. So
Right.
there's a very conscious choice to say, I'm going to, to some degree, put that energy aside. Um, you know, I've got this problem, I've got that problem in the city. So of course that's always going, oh, I got to take out the laundry, I got to do this, I got to do that. That's always going to,
Mhm.
distract you from being able to meditate and
Mhm.
being able to focus. So yeah, it's just in a city, you have to be very conscious about it. And I imagine if I lived on the 35th floor of Manhattan, I would maybe have to be that much more because I kind of feel like you need to go to nature to rejuvenate. You can keep forcing it, keep moving that energy, and perhaps you're better than me at doing that. I'm better than me at putting these things, sort of aside and focusing, and that's for anyone. But eventually, I personally need to leave my house and go into nature as much as possible. It's a lot better now because I have this great backyard and it's huge, and I'm right across the street from the beach, so I can go in the water. Um, obviously, that makes a difference. I feel happier.
Yeah, very much so. And a thing for me, Maggie, is, I'm ADD and I'm like, it's really hard for me to focus and calm down. I'm
Mhm.
always just busy and, my brain. So what I found, because meditation was difficult for me. And so what I found was kind of a chant, rogation. So rogation is an ecclesiastical chant, but really it's just repetition, repetition. So like I'm into the 6 calls. I do them ad nauseum on my channel. But it's a way, and I do clearings and manifestations in like a rogation form, like a chant, where I kind of it allows my brain to get into it. And then it's like my physical and my energy bodies kind of combine in that cycle. And so it really helps me to focus and go deeper. So it's kind of something that I've learned, a tool, so that if I am in chaos, I can bring in the quiet or the
Right,
focus,
right, right.
you
You know,
know.
there are things that we have to attend to, just regular stuff. You got to take McKenna to school. There's just regular stuff that we have to do. You
Yeah,
can't deny that 24/7.
right.
There is a sometimes a tendency to deny the reality, to go to
Mhm.
only going to the positive. I mean, some people who would go to manifestation just kind of have that feeling that you just focus on the positive and only the positive things happen. That's
Right.
not really true.
No.
Negative things still happen. It's just how long are we gonna how much of my energy am I going to spend on that? And am I going to take that personally?
Right.
Right. So,
Right. Good.
yeah, you got crazy loud neighbors. Of course, you're going to have difficulty meditating.
Yeah. It was pretty, got pretty wild in Seattle before I moved. I had some, some neighbors that were very
Just-
loud. Their
just
energy was just like, "Rrr," and they had 3 dogs. They lived above me, and it was like, oh my gosh, it was a lot.
the elephants with clogs tap dancing living above you.
Yeah. Right. Oh. Do you guys have questions? I'm looking. Okay. Hi, Blue Butterfly. How do you know if you are on a spiritual contract? That's a cool
That's
question.
a great question. Now, one thing I'll tell you, as having done past life regressions, that's everybody's question, every single person's question. So if that is your question, that is absolutely awesome and totally normal. And the fact that you are asking that question means you desire to be on your spiritual path. I really like the past life regression because you can look at those other lives and you'd be like, oh, that's what I needed to learn. That's what I needed to learn. That's what I needed to learn. And sometimes you get to, I should have learned that, but I didn't get an A. I got a C minus. Now I'm going to do that again. I would say in lifetimes, usually you have a bunch of different spiritual contracts. So Jen and I might have a contract where we're going to meet and do work together. And that is important for both of our evolutions. I would say anybody you are working with, even if you dislike them, that is a spiritual contract. What are you supposed to learn from that? And I would look at whatever's happening in your life and say, this is happening. What is my contract here? And if rather than going, this sucks, I hate my neighbor, you need to back up and go, okay, this is true, they're annoying, and this is a problem. What is it telling me? In your case, time to move. Or maybe it's time to be assertive. Or maybe it's time to confront somebody and be really peaceful without getting full of rage. That's a contract I am really working on myself, right? Being like, yeah, stop going like this. It's great to live with an Indian because it's like, Dave, Indian people just don't behave that way. They don't go to the airport and start yelling at the customs official and demanding this and that. That's an American thing. Nobody else in the world does that. I'm like, oh, it's so American to just think that you'll just go in there and just, managing and controlling how that happens. Anything that's on your mind is probably part of the spiritual contract. And I find that most spiritual contracts have to do with others. No one has a spiritual contract that says you must make $1 million. Right? They might have a spiritual contract that says making that money and that process of evolution and becoming in that particular way is going to teach you something. The life that you have making your millions, right, is supposed to teach you something. It's not the million. It's the process of perhaps asserting yourself, or the process of having a good idea and sticking with it, or the process of balancing your life in such a way of work and fun. You could have the opposite contract, which is to be little less focused on the money, be able to have a job and still be nice to your spouse. I would say any people you're in a relationship, that there's a spiritual contract there. There's going to be something to learn. And when you pass through the lifetime, there is a time when you kind of stand before yourself. No one's judged. There's not like a big judge that shows up. It's more you going really super critical of yourself. I should have been better. And usually spirit goes to me, well, it goes to them. Hey, you didn't have great choices. Mm-hmm. I mean, come on, don't be so tough on yourself. And then it is me, if I'm the subject, who say, well, I could have been a little bit more peaceful about this. Right. Mm. So don't suppose that just because you have a regular life and you don't have a YouTube channel where you're doing spiritual work, that you don't have a spiritual contract. Every single person that I meet, and I meet just wonderful people, is like, they're a nurse, and their spiritual contract is to bring energy and hope to those in need. and they'll just be functioning as a normal nurse, but in the back of their mind, they're doing hands-on healing. And any perhaps part of yours. There's a great book by Newton, Journey of Souls, and in Newton's Journey of Souls, there's a character, and he's a lawyer, and it's the Depression. And when he gets to sort of his life review, he's like, well, I kept all these people employed during the Depression, and that's what justifies my life. And they're like, nope, not that. It was that one day when you saw the lady crying on the park bench, and you went and got out of your little shell, got out of your righteous shell, and went and talked to her. And all he had done was just listen to her and give sympathy for her, and he never saw her again. Like, that was your spiritual contract right there. That's it. Yeah, it was not a bad thing that she helped employ those people, but it was also more about that. Just seems to me that spiritual contracts have a lot to do with us being sympathetic to ourselves and saying, what am I learning here? Without criticizing the self and without going, universe, why have you set this horrible? Why am I waiting for my plane for 6 hours? It's not fair. Okay. It's natural to have those feelings, but if you can, just take a step back and just say, what am I learning? That's your contract.
Yeah, very good. I mean, I see it as our whole life as a contract. Every relationship is a contract. You know, we live in the third dimension. So this is what Courtney tells me, my guide. We live in the third dimension. We experience emotion. So every relationship, every interaction that we have is frequency. It's energy. That's soul contracts. They leave, when we have interactions with folks or some relationships are really big, like with our parents or our lover, or somebody that's been real significant in our life. And then we have, littler relationships, like at work, or somebody, the person at Costco that's, checking out your groceries, right? It's all relationships, and it's all contract. That's what soul contracts are about. They leave an imprint on our soul, and they can leave energy on our soul. So some of us, if we've had difficult times, I've gone through therapy, done a lot of therapy, but it keeps everything, up here. It's a wonderful way. Therapy is a great tool for mapping out your soul system, seeing the contracts in your life, what role folks play. But when you do soul contract work, when you get to the essence of the spirit of it, what is it that you are to learn about your relationship with you? What is it that you are to learn about your relationship with spirit?
And it's not punishment.
No.
Punishment.
No.
You did something bad, and now you have to learn to be humble. It's
No.
It's an opportunity, right? And you're standing outside this earth, and you're looking back. Oh, it's a lovely opportunity. But as you're, getting evicted from your apartment, it's pretty hard to see that as a learning experience and not to get angry about it, right? If y'all get a chance, take a look at my other channel, and that's the Pyramid 4 channel, and I have Jen doing her past lives. And when you went to one past life in particular, like the one where you were the Queen of Hawaii, you remember what you were supposed to learn?
Oh, it was about guilt. Because when I planted, remember when I came off the cloud and I came back down to earth and I was in her feet? I mean, my feet, I was on the grass. I was wearing a white muumuu. And it was when I was her when the United States annexed the Kingdom of Hawaii. And she was part of that process more so than I think, what history has really portrayed it as. And it was all of her feelings and thoughts I felt. And yeah, when David took me to the sun, and it was that moment of what was it that I was to learn? And it was about guilt. It was about
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's interesting how in this lifetime that has been a struggle for me. That has been a real challenge. That is one of my contracts that I've been working through. So it's
Mm.
interesting that if you don't really get it that lifetime back there and you come back this lifetime, it'll kind of be a little more intense. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's kind of like getting
Yeah.
yourself bopped in the face by the lead singer of the band,
Uh,
right?
right. Yeah. One of the things Newton says is, beware if you're really rich in this lifetime, beware. Okay. Next lifetime, you're probably going to be dirt poor. Okay. So watch your behaviors. Okay. You're kind to poor people as you're a rich person. You can, somewhat expect that you won't need to learn the lesson of humility, right?
Mhm.
May wind up in a completely different situation, but you will have learned something. Everybody out there is learning multiple things in the same lifetime. It's not just one. I think if we all went back to a lifetime in the Middle Ages, it'd be shorter. The lesson would be clearer, right? We live in a really complex time, and we're all living to 100. So there are just multiple lessons that we're like kind of fast forwarding at this time learning. I think that's part of the shift, is that people are learning multiple lessons in a lifetime. And, don't be too hard on yourself. Maybe you're like really, really good at being kind to people, but you are not so good at, managing. Right. It's always like, you're not going to get an A plus in every class in this life. Some classes it's okay just to pass. That might be the best you can do to graduate. And again, no one's punished. It's not like you get to the end of your life and they're like, you're going to go to hell. Never, never. That never happens.
Mhm.
Some people are also living really hard lessons. There are
Mhm.
situations that put them really far from spirit. They're just trying to survive.
Yeah. Wow. Very good.
Yeah.
Lynn asks, I'm a medical intuitive. Are you a medical intuitive,
I
David?
would say no. I don't know that much about it. I'm kind of a little hesitant when people ask me medical questions because, first of all, I really want people to consult a doctor. You don't need to believe the doctor 100%. Doctors are wrong. They say, according to Harvard study, 30% of the time. So you really do have to take ownership of your own medical movement. It's not only about talking to a doctor. But people will ask me, I'm going to see two doctors, which one do you like better? And I'll say, I like this guy better. It seems like they care more. So I try to refer them back if there is some method that can help. And I feel that I will tell them. But I would not say, in general, that I'm a medical intuitive. I'm more about people. I can have a better feeling about a doctor, or sometimes I can get, hey, the situation will be made better if you don't eat these foods. Usually I get that, or it's usually, the body is usually reflecting something going on in your soul, right?
Mhm.
It's something your life is, I have a little bit of a knee problem. I recently consulted a really good channel. He doesn't work anymore. Sorry, I cannot remember his name. But I was his last customer. He's never going to see a person again. Now he works exclusively animals. He's like, you're not holding yourself up. He's like, you are not expressing your feelings very well.
Mhm.
And so it's getting better because I'm learning better how to do that.
Fantastic. Very
Mhm.
good. Good. All right. Jenny Baez. Is it okay to wear crystals during the eclipse? Do's and don'ts for eclipse with our crystals.
You're better at crystals, so you tell us.
I love crystals. So no, yeah, you should put them away, you guys. Don't even put them out in the moonlight this time. What's coming up in April 8th. You want to cover them. This eclipse is going to be very pivotal for our energy, for humanity. You're going to see it. You're going to feel it in yourself. Like something has been building and it's going to break. So when that happens, that kind of energy, because stone holds frequency and it holds the energy, that's how it works. So you don't want to have them out at this time. Souls are going to really experience a lot of change. It's kind of like when a chemical reaction happens and the entropy that comes off from that reaction, that's what will be absorbed in your crystals if you have them out to charge during this full moon, or have them out for the eclipse. It's just, I don't recommend it this time. Take them inside and close the blinds. Because,
Do you feel that this eclipse is kind of a big deal? I haven't really gone to that energy yet, but I keep getting that this eclipse is just going to have some of those like big fat changes involved in it, and maybe reflected in political events. If you check in right now, do you feel that?
Yeah. I mean, we're going to experience a major change about the third week of April. And I've seen what I am seeing, but I really don't want to say it out loud. You know, it's discernment, guys, right? As readers, as channelers, things that we see, you want to be careful about what you put out. I can say that we'll feel relief, whatever it is. The energy is going to break. So we're going to feel relief. But this is all about letting go of that which no longer serves, letting go of things that don't suit you anymore. The energy, have you noticed that? The people, maybe you're feeling more in tune, more in alignment, because that is what's happening. I'm not an astrologer, but I am into the frequency of stone. And to me, that's what astrology is. It's like, where are the stones all in relation to each other and pulling on each other? And so when you are born or birthed, your energy is coming forth. And what is it that's molding and shaping you? So whether that's an astrological thing that's happening here in April, that's what I get, is that it's a real cleansing for folks, a real realignment.
I do kind of have the feeling that it's almost going to be like COVID, like a COVID-like event, that something happens in our society that, one good thing about COVID is we were all forced to sit at home and like think about what's important. We were all forced to go home and like be in relationship with whomever we lived with and perhaps work out some problems, right? So I do feel like there's something like that, and I totally appreciate, Jen, that there really are some things that we can't. We are intuiting some things that we don't necessarily feel most comfortable sharing with people because it might not help. Panicking people doesn't help them get to a higher plane. It is more important for us to work with people when these events happen than to predict them, because the latter is a little bit about look, I predicted that, and the former is about, hey, these things are happening, how can we integrate them and understand them.
Yeah, very good. All right, well, you guys, this has been awesome. Yeah, thank you, Dave.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I love doing this with you. It's really cool. So I think folks are digging it. Y'all
Good.
digging it?
I'm really curious. I can't help looking at the comments and learning a lot. There's like a lot of people who tune me into people I don't know about.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Pretty neat. So everyone, if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the comments under the video, and then I can copy them and we can have them up for the next show. So if you think of something and have a burning question, yeah, it'd be fun. All right. So we will see you. We were supposed to be on tomorrow, but I'm going to a concert. I'm going to go see Teddy Swims. I'm really excited. So, but we'll be back next Thursday, right? Right, Friday for you, 10 a.m. Thursday night for us here. Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.